Good evening, everybody. Can y'all hear me okay out there? William, Vicente, Juanita? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, sorry, trying to come off. I hear you.
Okay,
We're all
that's
good.
good. I just wanted to make sure you could hear okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Jennifer will be here in just a minute. And she'll talk about assignment 2, but I'm going to go ahead and start our standard review of the syllabus and the assignment stuff, kind of talk about what's coming up. Oh, she made it. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I just stopped to get gas on my way here because I figured it's going to be dark afterwards.
It will probably be dark. Because you know me, I'm going to go till 9 o'clock.
Well,
last
just,
week I didn't.
You know.
I didn't quite go that long.
I know, like I said, I did not expect you to end early. And I get up and go to the bathroom and then class.
Where did everybody go? If it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the quick syllabus stuff, assignment stuff. Then Jennifer is going to talk about assignment 2.
Yep.
And then we'll get into tonight's lecture, which includes some of the stuff that was left over from last week, which is okay because it was a lot. So where are we? Today is October the 8th. I had a little bit of feedback there. October the 8th, 2025. Tonight we're going to be talking more about risk and risk management and expectations on the incident response plan. I also want to take a little bit of time and hit on the privacy impact assessment template. And I think I want to do that before I get into the regular lecture in light of some of the stuff that we saw from assignment 2. Next week, October 15th, no lecture. The discussion is not going to be graded, but a discussion has been set up for you guys to share if you want something that you did instead of watching the class or coming to class that makes you feel human. Some days is pretty hard to figure out what that is that makes us feel human, and some days I wonder about humanity. But anyway, it is what it is, and that's next week, the 15th. Also, assignment 3, the privacy impact assessment, is due at 6 p.m. on October 15th. No late work, no makeups, no extra credit. Get it in, get it done. After that, got one more lecture getting into identity management, privacy by design. Probably a little bit more into privacy awareness and training. As we noted last week, this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So hopefully you guys are engaging in appropriate cybersecurity related activities to raise awareness. October 29th, a couple of days before Halloween, is a work day. Jennifer and I will both be here in class. I will be full of chili because we're having a chili cook-off. And also we're doing some cybersecurity awareness stuff during our chili cook-off on the 29th. We'll have some discussion on November 5th about the assignment. It'll be about responding to an incident, not about assignment 4. Assignment 4 will be due, your incident response plan, 6 o'clock on November 5th. And then the final lecture, November 12th, that's where we just talk about what's going on. What are some of the current trends and issues that we're seeing in the privacy arena? Have you thought about or should we talk about some of the Doge related things that have been going on this year. I mean, those,
I have not thought about that, but probably
that
so.
might, I mean, that would be something, I think that would be something that folks might find interesting, and it was the whole process and the extraction of data and not really being sure who knows where the data is. And
Such a great process.
And I'm sure, Jennifer, they have your student loans somewhere.
Hey, I will tell y'all, I got my student loans forgiven. But I have other debt if somebody wanted to do that to take care of it. Not that I'm suggesting it.
No, because we would never do anything like that. That would be illegal and unlawful and unethical.
Exactly, but if people really did want to, hit the government where it hurts and hit the
Yeah.
United States, it's not the individual citizens.
Yeah.
It's big business. But not that I'm suggesting it.
No. Because we love everyone.
That is correct.
I'm gonna move along before we get there. This fun. We really do love this class and enjoy spending time with you guys. That may not have been what I wanted to do. So that's where we are in the syllabus. Let's talk about the upcoming assignments. Hit the right button. Over. And all right, so you guys have turned in the first assignment, your first year CPO plan. You've submitted assignment 2, the privacy policy and privacy notice, and those have been graded. Next Wednesday is assignment 3, the privacy impact assessment template. And then the final 2 assignments, the data breach incident response plan. And then the final project is where you actually use this stuff that you've created. You use the data breach incident response plan to respond to the scenario. And it gives you an opportunity to look back at the work that you did, your CPO plan, your privacy policy, and think about what changes we might need to make at Quantum Leap in order to do a better job next time. So assignment 3, zoom in, due by beginning of class, October 15th, 15% of your grade, using information provided above and any additional information you deem relevant. Provide a privacy impact assessment template to be used when acquiring new technologies to reduce the risk of privacy issues for Quantum Leap. So this is along the lines of a policy document that you're creating. You have to provide some instruction to people who needs to do the assessment. When does it need to be done? What are the circumstances? What kind of information, in the template, what kind of information do you need as the chief privacy officer to be able to fairly assess whether this thing that we're wanting to do is too risky? What are those risks and how can those risks be addressed? All of those things should be in this impact assessment in order to appropriately evaluate the riskiness of engaging in the new activity. And we'll, again, after Jennifer talks a little bit, we'll dig a little bit deeper into the PIA template. So that's where we are at the moment. I'm going to stop the screen share for a little bit. There. And Jennifer.
I'm gonna come over there just because I've got my volume off here so I
Okay.
don't get feedback. Okay.
I thought you liked feedback.
It sounds like wah, 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 wah. Okay, so now we get to talk about the fun stuff, and I have to play the heavy today. So grades are posted. I'm sure you've got them. I will tell you, I was generous with most of your grades. Most all of you scored fine. I will tell you, here's what we got. A lot of your notices, you can get the notice. I mean, those are everywhere, a dime a dozen. We can find those out online. So nobody really had problems with that. Other than some of your notices were so generic, they could have applied to a plumbing company, or they could have applied to this Quantum Leap advanced, computing company here. So when we say a lot of my comments, and I think probably most people to a certain extent got something that says it's a little bit generic, that's what we're talking about. Some of you, I think, got very comfortable with going out and finding out the materials online, and I hate that I'm just, because you're the only student here in class, and I'm just looking at you, just because I need somewhere to focus.
I'll come stand up.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Finding the resources is not the problem. Okay, there we go. That way I can. Finding the resources is not the problem. Some of you, I know, put information in your privacy notices and your policies that honestly you probably don't know what it means, or you might know what it means, but maybe not in practice. And I say that, I mean, as a privacy officer, you can put whatever you want in your policy and your notice, but you're being held to that standard. So if you don't know what it is, it does not need to go in your policy. So you need to make sure that every single statement that you say you're going to do in your notice and your policy applies, and that you can do it. Some of you, a good portion of you, your policy almost had a little bit of a notice feel to it. And when I say that, what I mean is a notice is clearly like, here at Quantum Leap, we take privacy seriously. Here's the information we collect on you. Da, 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 da. In a policy, which is your internal workings of how the company deals with privacy and handles data and all kinds of other matters, some of you said, we may collect employee information. You don't need to tell your employees that. You give them the information. You know they're collecting. You're their employee. So your document, instead of saying, we may collect employee ID, but we will protect it, tell me how employees need to protect data. What you say is all employee data must be stored in a locked file cabinet and accessed only by those who might have a valid reason for accessing it. You don't have to notify your company of your data practices, so to speak, how you would an external customer. You're telling them what behavior to do, so that way you can fulfill your duties to the notice. Does that make sense? Online, everybody? So some of y'all had a little bit, you kind of mixed them up. There was a little bit of a noticey feel, but y'all overall had a good effort. You're correct, William. It did say to put it for EWS. But so some of them were kind of mixed. And this is the first time we've had one, the notice was for a different company, so to speak. And so that threw some people for a loop, but I didn't count anybody off if you had Quantum Leap in your notice, because it could be, I didn't count anybody off for that. But you don't say, like, another one, you don't, in your policy, you don't say, we maintain data at various, retention periods of time. Tell employees, we retained X data for this time or this time, or all data must be reviewed and retained in accordance with our data retention policy. You got full credit for that. So,
or assume Quantum Leap has a data retention policy.
Exactly. So just keep in mind, you're not having to do the whole, we at Quantum Leap take data practices very seriously. Here's what we want you to know as an employee, how we're handling your data. It should be incorporated. You're telling the employees what expected behavior of them. They know you're collecting data. Now, you could say something like, Quantum Leap collects a variety of data, and we take data practices very seriously. All employees are expected to adhere to the following privacy principles: data retention policy, acceptable use policy, things of that nature. It's how do you want your employees to behave? So some of you, if you got a couple points counted off, that was the main reason. Several of you used AI, which we told you could use, but you have to do the prompts. Several of you I know used AI and didn't list it in your sources. And several of you didn't list, I say several, there was a few that didn't list sources at all. Now, I did not give you a 0 for that, but I know 100% that not a single person in this classroom wrote it from scratch on their own without looking at any other materials as a guide. If you did, that was wasted effort, but I could tell by the responses, nobody did that. So I did not count you as a 0 if you did not tell me your sources, but you do it on the next assignment and you will get a 0 because that's essentially, at that point, it's just flat plagiarism. And it's lazy. So we got the generic. There were several of you, and this is the hard part, because I don't like counting people, not giving them full credit or close to full credit. Okay,
We want everybody to make
we
it.
want everybody. We will give
Yes.
every single person an A if you've earned it. So here's the hard part. We had several students clearly not read the assignment. And I know they didn't read the assignment, and I question whether they've watched the lectures, because there was a few people that only submitted a privacy notice, even though we had said, I don't know how many times in the class scenario that it was a policy and a notice. It was in the lectures, it was said in class, it was in there. I mean, we said it multiple times, but there were still a few, as usual, but that usually happens, that only did a privacy notice. So you're only going to get half credit because you only did half the assignment. However, we had multiple students, which was highly disappointing, who did not even have the name Quantum Leap. They turned in assignments with another company's name. And to me, it is lazy. I'm just going to be harsh. You are graduate students. I expect better quality, especially for the fact that Tim and I give you so much leeway in being able to create your assignments. We're not telling you don't use AI. We're not telling you don't go out and look at other people's. We make ourselves available to review by email from a work day. There is no reason why that should have happened. To me, that is pure laziness. I mean, we've talked about Quantum Leap, and it goes back to we gave you guys pitfalls, which that was one of them. We mentioned that specifically a couple times in class, having the wrong name that people have done in the past. But here's the thing. The same pitfall that happens every year. We give you so much freedom to go out and find sources, use AI, which I know is doing everybody's work for them right now. I mean, that's just how it is. We give you so much latitude to do that. But the problem with this class, it is not finding sources that you can copy from, because everybody's going to copy from everybody. That is the nature of business. And if you're somebody's got to do it one time, but if somebody does it, most people are willing to share. The key to this class is not finding the resources. The key is the class scenario. Because if you do not understand the class scenario, then you are not going to do well on any of these assignments. And we do not want that for you guys. The class scenario is the hard part. Once you can understand and master that, the rest of the work is easy. And it's important because, one, you got to get the name of the company right. We all know what it is, right? Quantum Leap. That's our fake company name. And we did have, unfortunately, several students turn in something not even for Quantum Leap, and it does concern me for the rest of their assignments, because it concerns me the number of times we have talked about the class scenario Tim pulled it up again today. We've pulled it up at the beginning of class multiple times. It's part of your reading, and there's no reason why that should have happened. However, going forward, like I say, many of you turned in very polished written work, which I know was assisted by the internet, and that's fine. But keep in mind, we would much rather it be less polished and tailored to the class scenario than very polished. And like I said, most of all of you did fine. Like I say, I'm looking at the list here of who's actually who's in online right now or in class. Most of all you did fine. I think most people got between 12 and 15 points, which is an acceptable range. So most of you got there. But I would encourage you to go back and read this assignment and read it again and reread it again and reread it again. And then once you understand it, go out to try to get material to help you formulate your responses, whether it's the PIA, the incident response. And the reason that is important is, say you find an incident response plan for
A plumbing company.
Or a school district. Well, they're going to collect different data. If you are having an incident response plan that's so generic that it could apply, then you're missing key elements of understanding the nature of this scenario. You have to tailor it to the company you're at. If you work for a big data company, your work is going to have to be tailored to, one, the amount of data you have, the type of data you have. If you work for a credit card company, you're going to have different data than if you work for a mortgage company.
And if you worked for Quantum Leap, and if some of you submitted the privacy policy and privacy notice to the CEO and did what you did, you would be fired on the spot.
Exactly. There was one assignment, and I can't remember who it was. And it was kind of like a kitchen sink. I appreciate their effort because I could tell in some of the language that this person wrote, privacy is the responsibility of everyone. That was included in their plan. But I could tell it was a kitchen sink thing, like, we don't generally collect HIPAA medical information, but if we did, this is how we would protect it. And, I appreciate that, but keep in mind, those are going to be extra. But they did a good job by at least trying to, you could tell they watched the lectures and read the materials, and they made a good effort. And so I don't count off for that. But in the future, like I say, you have to really know what your company does. Because again, what if you say, we don't collect medical information, but if we do, this is how we're going to protect it. And all of a sudden, you don't realize it, but in somebody's HR file, you have some medical records, or somebody turns some medical records in.
So this is kind of interesting, because if they read ahead in the scenario, one of the companies that apparently suffered a breach in their EWS stuff was a medical billing company.
Exactly.
So that could have,
and that might be the
could have
reason.
prompted somebody to say, it's not ours, but.
Exactly. And, here's the thing, if you work for a company, like you may have individual services, medical, you may be a financial, something like that. But when you're contracting with an EWS service that's doing cloud, that's hosting it for lots of people, you do assume responsibilities. And so their policies are going to be different than if you're not. So the key to this class is the scenario. We've said it, and I just want to reiterate that. If you're struggling with that
Yes.
That is 1000%, and we talked about that in class.
All the whole time.
Yeah. The question was online. I found one issue I found was when I searched online, I found privacy policies that were really privacy notices. I only caught issue by paying attention to the slides, so I had to rewrite my privacy policy, because what I really did the first time was write 2 privacy notices.
Yeah.
Even my feedback says that I suffer from that issue.
Yes.
And that is 100%
Yes.
the common issue. People see policy, and we talked about that. in the first class. Oftentimes, people are not going to put their internal privacy policies online because they're internal documents.
Right.
But like I said, they come disguised oftentimes. It's like things that are in your employee handbook, policies that you operate in, and you, at that point, you really have to draw on your own experience and what we've talked about in class and the lectures. Because
Or
the
just-
privacy notice is the easy part.
Yeah,
We could
and-
all do that.
And again, that's one of those things where it really is a thinking question.
Absolutely.
As a company that's doing this line of business,
Mhm.
what policy requirements would you have on your employees to
Exactly.
protect the data?
Right.
What rules need
Like-
to be in place?
Like someone said something about in one of theirs, something to the effect of we classify data according, something like we classify data or
Yeah.
something. And that is true, but that's a little bit more of a, that was like me telling you as an employee, hey, we classify data. Yes, I know you do, because I may be on the classification
Yeah.
team. In a note, in a policy, you would tell, in a notice, you would say, yes, we classify data and protect at different levels. In a policy, how are we classifying it? Is it in accordance with our data classification policy? Or, things of that nature. Tell your employees what you expect of them in order to fulfill all those duties. So again, the policy part of it is much harder, and that does require, that's why we tell you, it does not have to be written, I mean, obviously spell check, but it doesn't have to be written sophisticatedly because they're going to be harder to find. The notices, I mean,
They're everywhere.
everywhere. But the key is the scenario, and that's why we make ourselves available. So study it. We tell our students every year, and inevitably, this always happens. I don't know that we've had 3 or 4 or 5
That
in
many
one
that were
assignment,
wrong,
but
yeah.
we had
Yeah.
multiples.
Yeah.
So if you were one of those people, here's the other thing. If you're one of those people that was either did not get a good grade on this assignment, we've said it, we do not do makeup work and we do not do
Extra credit.
extra credit. However, I encourage you to read your class scenario, to read it again, and then to reread it again. And there are still plenty of points left in the class for you to do well. But
Review the lectures, review the
Exactly.
slide deck.
But this is
We're
usually-
giving you everything you need.
exactly, we've given you, this is usually the point in the class where people are like, well, crap.
Yeah,
And it kind of starts changing. And they do well.
Yeah.
So if your grade was not what you want it to be, don't fret. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of points available. But if you were one of those people, I did in the grades encourage you to go back and reread the class scenario. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to either, one of us privately. But like I say, for the most part, everybody did well. And again, you could tell you attempted on the policy, and even though it had a noticey feel to it, but I didn't count you off too much for that. Y'all did good. Any questions before we start the lecture? I hate to start the class out on the bummer note. Okay.
I had a lot of fun. doing
Yay,
this.
Lester. We're glad you had fun.
Lester likes writing policy. Writing, to me, of all the writing that I get to do, writing policy is one of my unfavoritist things of all.
I
To
hate
write.
getting it down on paper the first time.
And
First draft is so hard.
to try to write it in such a way, it's like I'm writing it, I understand what I mean, and then when you start getting 50 different questions about it,
I know.
it's like, does that mean I can't wear sandals
I know.
on casual day? Does that mean my shirt has to have a collar?
I know.
So anyway, policy is challenging. I'm gonna jump back into the PIA. Let me share screen again. Share screen. Entire screen, screen 2. I was back home at Conway during those days. All of a sudden it rained from all over that I had no other choice but to do.
Hey, whatever works to
Yeah.
get your homework done. Like I say, we've had some, I mean, we like for y'all to get creative because after you read so many
Oh,
assignments,
yeah.
they just get boring.
Oh,
So we
those-
want you to get creative.
Those are so, and we've seen some
Did
amazing.
I tell
fun-
them what the most creative one was?
No, you did not. What was the most creative?
Okay, the most creative one, and none of y'all can use this. I'll tell you this right now. You cannot use it in your final. So the class scenario was similar. There's a breach, somebody gets a panic, phone call, there's a breach, all this data, da 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 da. However, come to find out, he woke up, it was all a bad dream. There was no breach, so he didn't have to do notifications. He didn't have to change policy. It was brilliant. It was brilliant
Yeah.
the way that it was written. So when we tell you to get creative, except there's no daydreaming. There's no dreaming on that one.
Yeah.
It's no nightmare.
But it answered everything. I mean, it was a
It
good.
touched
yeah.
everything, but it was amazing.
All right. I'm going to jump down into some of the PIA stuff again. We just want to make sure everybody understands what we're expecting. So a privacy impact assessment is a risk tool. So if you're in any kind of business and you're thinking about starting a new technology or doing some data conversion, we're about to figure out how to do some massive data conversion from legacy data from court case management systems. That is risky business because this stuff is going to be out there for the public to see. And if we don't do it right, somebody gets hurt. So this is a tool that we use to analyze the risk of the work that we're proposing to undertake. We are not asking you to conduct a privacy impact assessment of anything. Again, you are the privacy officer, and your job is to say, Quantum Leap, before you start this new technology project, you are required to conduct a privacy impact assessment under these circumstances. This is who needs to do the PIA. This is what needs to be included in the PIA. This is what happens when you submit a PIA. And we're going to make this is the review processes. This is the review committee. I need you employees to tell me what the proposal is for. I need you to tell me what kind of data is going to be involved. I need you to tell me what kind of risks are we going to be facing if we undertake this work. So that is why we do a PIA, and your job as the chief privacy officer is to impose this requirement on the organization and provide a template for them to help you do your job as the privacy officer. It's used to analyze risk related to PII, a product, a project, a process. It should provide responses to the identified risks. You can't just say, if we engage in this legacy data conversion, the risk is that we're going to misidentify members of the public, therefore we shouldn't do it. No, you need to identify the risks and provide some sort of risk response to be able to address the risk. It improves the ability to provide privacy by design, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more in a couple of weeks, because privacy isn't an afterthought. You're not just going out and doing this work and it's like thinking, okay, well, how are we going to protect the social security numbers of folks when we do this work? We gave you, and these links are here in the slide deck. Go and follow it. This is a pretty cool Australian video. So this was published by the Australian government, and it's a cool video that talks through the process of responding to a PIA, to create a PIA. Again, you are not executing a privacy impact assessment, but you're building that template that other people are going to use to do this kind of work. I need to know, when should a PIA be conducted? So you need to provide that guidance to the organization. They don't need to do a PIA every time they walk in the door. There are only sometimes where it's going to need to be considered. So provide the guidance to the organization about when should a PIA be conducted. And here are some good examples that you might consider in your requirements for the organization.
As it relates to the assignment here, a threshold analysis like this can go with.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's a similar instrument, it's just like a light, right?
Right. And the reason that's important, so in GDPR, they recommend that you do this assessment ahead of time in order to actually to determine whether to do a PIA. So if I were requiring this work of the organization, doing the threshold assessment as part of your PIA template, that would be a good policy. That would be a good thing to do, because not only does it help you address the risk, but it also helps you address the cost that's involved in conducting a full PIA. So if you can imagine what needs to be considered in the threshold analysis, and we've got an example of an online threshold analysis about the questions that would need to be answered in order to reach to answer the question of yes or no, is a PIA required, then think of all the time and effort and money that you've saved by doing that initial threshold analysis before requiring a PIA to go forward. And then you have to think about, well, who's going to make that decision? Is the tool, last week, one of the students was talking about using AI tools. This is the reality that we're in, and it might be possible to train an AI agent, a PIA, a threshold agent, to do that analysis for you and make a recommendation. Hopefully a human's going to make a decision. But that would be an interesting approach to take, to say you submit the threshold analysis, answer the questions, and then let the agent make a recommendation about whether to continue with the full PIA. Somebody just asked a question.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Again, go back. It was that week 6. Go back to the week 6 slide deck. Go back to the week 6 lecture. If you have any questions, I'm trying to understand about what it is that we're expecting in this assignment next week. Again, this is one of those things where privacy impact assessments are all over the internet. So you're not going to have any trouble finding examples of completed privacy impact assessments. But the template that we're asking you to create, why would a company necessarily publish that internal operating policy requiring the work of their employees? You're not gonna find a whole lot of those out there, but there's enough information for you to synthesize one from the type of information that's likely to be needed in order to conduct a proper risk analysis. In the slide deck, again, we've got lots of guidelines about things that should be included, when it should be conducted, and it's up to you to figure out who's going to do that work within your organization, who's going to submit it, who are they going to submit it to, who's going to review it, what happens after that. So unless you have further questions, that's all I have to say on the PIA. Again, the gotchas that we've seen every single time
Somebody
is
inevitably can
somebody
leave one.
somebody turns in a PIA. They did a privacy impact assessment on something in the scenario. And
Or they don't make it tailored to the scenario. I mean, our scenario is a company that is gonna have a lot of different types of data, and it's gonna require more analysis than, again, if
a
it's
plumbing
a
company.
plumbing company, I mean, it's the equivalent of, you're working off the internet and my dangers versus you're on the internet and the dangers. So keep that in mind. Inevitably, it happens.
All right. Enough said about that. Remember, it's due next week at 6 p.m. Central Time. And we can go away. And let's talk about risky business. So, what time is it? 6:42. We can get through this. We're going to talk about risk identification and risk management. We're going to spend a little bit of time, and we'll probably go through that fairly quickly, but we want to talk a little bit about the laws related to privacy in the media. We talk a little bit about tort law. So this is, again, one of the fun things is talking about the law to technologists. And again, not to turn you all into lawyers, God forbid, but to give you an idea of what kinds of things we may encounter in our real lives. We're going to talk about the incident response planning and practice process, and probably get into some privacy program monitoring tonight. So, as a project manager, in a lot of the work I do, much of the effort is all about identifying risks, analyzing those risks, and being prepared to respond to those risks. And essentially building a cybersecurity incident response plan, a disaster response plan, a business continuity plan, all of those things are really about risk management. The PIA is a risk management tool. Incident response planning is also a risk management tool. So we have to identify those risks and be prepared to respond to them. So what is it that we're protecting? It's pretty important as a privacy officer to have some idea about the data that the organization is responsible for. I've got a hypertext link here on data inventory. I'm not going to follow all these links. You guys can go in and do that yourselves. One of the most excruciating exercises that we ever did when we were doing just our disaster planning was conducting a data inventory of all the data in all the systems that we were responsible for. Understanding really what's in this data, the level of protection that's needed, and understanding how long parts of our organization could go without that stuff was a key part of our disaster planning. Similarly, with an incident response plan, you need to have an idea of what it is that you're trying to protect. If you don't collect it, then you don't have to protect it.
That's correct.
If you can't protect it, don't collect it. That was it. Did you see my
did,
text?
I did.
I was channeling Jennifer. This is a side note. I was channeling Jennifer in a meeting with some of my team members this afternoon. And we're trying to get folks focused on, we've got a major push this final quarter that we're trying to get through on our development effort and start doing some beta testing. And I've got some folks that have been distracted by other things, that I had no idea that they're spending time doing these things. And I said, if we're not aware of it, we can't take care of it. So anyway, and when it came out of my mouth, it was like, I'm channeling Jennifer.
That is right. That is right.
But it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
If we're not aware of it, we can't take care of it. So in your data inventory, you have to know what's in your data, because if you're not aware of it, you can't take care of it.
I will tell you. So we did a data inventory one time. This was years ago. We did a data inventory, and some people turned in like 393, different data sources. One of our largest departments turned in like 3. I was like, no.
DHS?
No. And and what's interesting is we just went through an asset inventory, IT asset inventory. And some departments had like 92 IT assets. And then another department had like 9,000. But what they did is like Adobe 2017, Adobe DC, the 14 different versions, which I would much rather see that and filter through than get like, oh, we don't have any IT assets over here.
If you're not aware of it, you can't
That
take
is
care
correct.
of it. So you have to do a data inventory. You have to understand what data you have to be responsible for it. There's a link to a Department of Transportation approach on the data inventory. So again, we are not requiring you to do a data inventory. This is just like professional guidance, because you may have to do some of this someday. Data inventories are legally required for some institutions. So there are some federal regulatory structures that require you to identify and safeguard the information. One of the big ones is the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, and that has to do with financial institutions and their information. So mortgage companies and banks and stuff like that. So it's a heavily regulated industry. And because of that, they have to have very strict safeguards, very strict controls to be able to be responsible and manage the data. We have to be able to rely on the accuracy of our bank statements in order to survive. So it makes sense that there's strong regulatory measures. In the example of the scenario, we're not going there. So we'll tell you right now, I don't think there's anything that Gramm-Leach-Bliley has to do with our scenario. But
no.
If you end up working in a financial organization, then this is some of
you will cover it ad nauseum.
Yeah, this is some of that regulatory structure you're going to have to be aware of. Some of the things you might want to include in a data inventory: nature of the repository of privacy-related information, the owner of the repository, especially if you work for a company that does technology work for somebody else. Technology vendors are often holders of information for other entities, for third parties. So it's important to know who owns this data that we're storing. Where's the repository? What's included in it? The volume of information in the repository. We have I'm responsible for, I think we're getting probably close to 15 terabytes of court document data. So this is, all the things filed in courts all over the state of Arkansas end up in our repository. And we are responsible for safeguarding that data. We have folks all the time. I need my divorce decree from 17 years ago to prove that I'm divorced. So that's one of those things that we have to keep this stuff. We have to protect it.
Well, I mean, if you think about the amount stored in email.
Oh, I've got 17 terabytes just in my
I know,
email
most
account.
people, so like the Office of State Technology, formerly DIS, has one of the longest average of tenure for employees. Like most of the department is eligible to retire.
Yeah.
And so they've been with the department for 30 years, 25, 30, 40 years. The amount of stuff they have stored in their emails. Yeah, I was just like, do you really need that?
No, I don't. I don't need that first email that I sent in 1999.
However, who's got time to clean out email folders?
Yeah, I don't. But I might have a Copilot agent that can do that for me.
Correct.
Do it on all your Google.
Yep. The use of the information. How's the information being used? The type or types of privacy related information. Where's the data stored? What country? Sometimes that's not an easy question to answer these days. Where's the data accessed? What country or state are people accessing the data from? That could be relevant.
Where is your tech support located? Because your data may be in the United States, but where's your tech support located? Do you offer 24/7 support? And if so, does that mean you're just operating in the US 24/7? Or do you have people around the world? Because they will ultimately have to access your data in order to help you.
And if they're accessing your data, they're transferring it around the world.
Exactly. That's a big issue.
Which is the last question, with whom is the data stored? It's stored for thee. So let's talk about risk identification. And I'm going to ask you guys, who should be involved in identifying risks in an organization?
Might be easier to list.
Everyone, Juanita wins.
Yay!
You get a prize, Juanita.
Somebody actually put that in their assignment too.
Stop it. When I teach the project management class for the National Center, and I'll be doing that next week, we spend some time talking about risk identification. And one of the things I tried to get them to take away is that risk identification is everybody's job all the time. And I don't care if you're a janitor and you're just coming in and cleaning the restroom. I mean, if you're cleaning the restroom and you see a personnel file, you have to be aware, and you have to make
And you don't
somebody
think
aware.
it's gonna happen. However, how many times have you been rushing from meeting to meeting and you have to stop and use the potty? So you set it on the counter, well, then if you rush out, it happens all the time.
So risk identification it's everybody's job all the time. We should always be looking out for risks. We had an employee jump in the dumpster in order to retrieve documents. Yeah, dumpster diving, literally. That is not surprising. That is not surprising. What are the likely sources of risk to the security and privacy of the data that we inventory? So now we're thinking in the process of identifying those risks, what could, what are the potential sources of harm? What are the risks that we might need to face? We've got organizational related risk. We've got policy related risk. If we don't have a good privacy policy, people may not know what they're supposed to do or what they're not allowed to do. So we need to think about the possible sources. And this isn't just it's not just a technology thing. We have to think about the human related aspects to the risks.
Okay, let's look at it this way. How many times have you had, and I don't know if they'll come up to you, I'm sure they do, somebody files a court document and they accidentally attach something that doesn't go to that case on it? Maybe their own internal notes, maybe someone else's case.
Yep.
So that is human error. Flat human error. It happens more often now. Of course, it goes into the technology but that is a human error. So people think all the time that what we hear about in the news are the large breaches or millions of records. But if you're the person whose data was released, it matters to you.
Yes.
If that was your information, that attorney is probably cringing that is on there. So it happened.
Today. Every freaking day. So today, one of the first calls I get, when I filed my domestic order of protection against my former spouse, the lawyer didn't tell me, nobody told me that I could keep my address confidential. And now it's out there.
Which is a domestic abuse petition. How did it be?
Oh, that's the stuff that just kills me. It kills me, Jennifer.
I know. I mean, sometimes things accidentally happen. I get it. Somebody's,
they forget to click something, or they forget to fill a checkbox.
they forget to get something off the printer, which I
Yeah.
had happen last week. I had to deal with an employee to whom which the prints were about. It was not me that left them on the printer,
but that's those are the worst.
but it happens.
And again, what I try to tell the folks in my teams, that the work that we are doing impacts people's lives.
Exactly.
If we screw up, people can get hurt, people can get killed.
Yeah, so did y'all go in and redact it?
Again, we can't, but it's like, this is what you need to do to go and take care of it. Yeah.
Because sometimes, I mean, now, so if somebody attached a document, would they have to go to the clerk of the court?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can't.
But they
Again, our policy doesn't allow us to do that,
to
because
adjust individual court documents.
Yeah.
I got
So
you.
it's got to be the court. Also be sure to consider insider threats, and that doesn't necessarily mean somebody with bad intent. An inside threat may be somebody who doesn't know the rules, somebody who doesn't know the policy, and they make a mistake. So that is as much of an inside threat as some inside hacker job, trying to get into stuff. It's really the most common insider threats we're going to face for all of the work that we do
So the question
is going to be that people that they didn't know what they were doing.
The question was, did you help her move or get police surveillance for a while?
So there's nothing that we at the AOC
Which is the
could
hardest
do.
part.
I know, and that's
I
what
hate
kills me.
when
Yeah.
people call and I'm like, I can't,
I can't help you, but this is what you need to do.
yes,
And that's generally what our role is. So
Yeah.
it's like,
that's how it was
Yeah.
with the Department
yeah,
of
this went
Education.
over to our legal division, and they reached out and said,
Here is how to fix this.
here's some steps that you need to take.
And shame on that attorney for not telling her, especially in a domestic abuse.
I know. And I think it was the attorney that represented her in a divorce case. So. Okay, I'm gonna calm down now.
Take a deep breathe in the good, out the bad.
Yeah. but also it's a good reminder that the work that we do really does matter. And this is true for all of you guys. When you're out in the world doing your technology thing, the stuff that you do matters, and it has an impact. So after you've identified the potential risks, it's helpful to think about the likelihood of the risk and the impact if it does occur. We call this qualitative risk analysis. This is a fairly common style of a risk matrix where you identify the likelihood, the higher the likelihood and the higher the impact, the farther into the top right, the risk is going to be identified. And those things are the things that need the most attention. There is some risk that will be hit by an asteroid. It's very low, although I saw today that there was one that was just a couple 100 miles off of Antarctica. Yeah, it was like 239 miles off of Antarctica that zipped by and we didn't see it. So maybe we're not doing a good job identifying those risks.
You have a question?
Uh-oh.
Tim, if someone puts address in there, I would hope other lawyer not sharing. I'm not sure, but do all the artifacts get into PACER?
So none of our artifacts go into PACER because we are a state court system, which, by the way, the state of Arkansas handles more court cases than the entire federal judiciary, and we have a teeny tiny itsy bitsy fraction of the resources that the federal judiciary has at its
Oh,
disposal.
for sure. Well, I mean, Arkansas, it was number 2, but now it's the number 1 state for divorce. And I don't know, for those of y'all, like myself, who have been divorced, I had an easy divorce, and there were still, 8 to 10 documents that had to get filed. There are some divorce cases, then with the ensuing custody, that have literally, Brent was telling me, he's got one. They've literally been in court for the better part of 17 years, basically the kid's entire life when
Wow.
they got divorced. Can you
That's-
imagine
yeah.
how many? He had like a 2-day trial with 80 exhibits and hundreds of pages each. So, I mean, the amount of records
Yeah.
that one case can generate,
It's insane.
it is.
It's insane. So I mean, no, but the artifacts do get into our system, and my team is responsible for the safety and security of those things. So we look at the likelihood of the risk occurring and the impact, the measure of the impact if it does, and then we try to formulate appropriate risk responses around that. One of the fun, I'll say fun, one of the interesting things that we've done as a team is to go through a risk analysis exercise where we're individually doing this work, identifying the risks and saying, well, I think this is high risk. It's it's likely to happen, and if it does happen, it's pretty severe. But have the team do it individually, and then come together and compare your results and talk about that to agree on a likely qualitative response to the risk. Court cases are public record. Generally, the answer yes. Most court cases are public records, and then we have areas that are absolutely confidential, top secret stuff, and then we have stuff within a public court case that is confidential, and then we have information documents filed in public court cases that are confidential.
Tim, I'm like, some documents are under seal. Some can be requested to be under seal.
Yeah. Or some have to be redacted.
That's what I said,
in
and
order.
many are
Yeah.
redacted. See, Tim?
Yep.
We're thinking of one.
It's
I'm
a
sorry
lot.
for you.
It's a lot.
Let him in.
Yeah.
You're in there now, buddy.
Because if we're not aware of it, we can't take care of it.
We can't take care
So
of
are
it.
there certain cases, I know this is a little off track, but are there certain things that can't be sealed that have to stay in the public, or like? is
There,
always a
so
case that can-
generally, the judge has a lot of discretion about what can be part of the public record. There are circumstances where, and again, because of the way our court system works, a judge may decide that an entire document is going to be sealed and not accessible. If the other party opposes that, they could file a motion to request that the document be unsealed. If the judge says, no, this is staying sealed, maybe, I don't think, certain billionaires in Northwest Arkansas's divorce is anybody's business. So the other party could request that it be unsealed. And if the judge denies that motion, then we have an appeal process. So it ultimately could be up to our state Supreme Court to say, this is a matter of public interest, and this should not be kept confidential. Those circumstances are not very common. I mean, it would be rare to see something like that. We have a whole infrastructure built around the possibility where first-time offenders can have their whole stuff blocked away from the public and nobody's allowed to know about that. So we have a framework to encourage the sealing of certain types of records. And the whole juvenile court system is strictly confidential. Does that pretty answer your question? Quantitative analysis is another approach. So I've done my qualitative analysis. I've got a pretty good feel for what the level of risk is, the likelihood, and the impact. Sometimes we need to put a number to that. So a quantitative analysis is a way to do that. If I have a probability, maybe I'm measuring probability from 0.1 to 0.9, or maybe 0 to 1, where 1 is a certainty, 100% chance this is going to exist. And then I have a way to measure the impact and a numerical value for that. Then I can multiply those two figures together and get a quantitative value. One of the things we do in project management when we're doing quantitative analysis is we apply a dollar figure. So I need to budget for high likelihood, high impact risks. So if I think there's going to be tariffs that are going to impact the cost of materials, I need to plan for that in my project. And I can do that through the risk analysis process and say, well, we need a risk reserve fund of $5 million to cover the cost of increased lumber from Canada. I don't know. So anyway, this is something that risk management folks are doing all the time, and I think this is also one of those areas where we're likely to see more AI assistance in analyzing and evaluating risks and risk responses and helping figure out what the cost of those things are. Let's talk about risk responses. Typically, we have positive risk responses and negative risk responses. Almost everybody off the street that you talk to, if you say, what do I do if I have a risk? What's your response? I need to mitigate. We've got to mitigate that risk. Unfortunately, some risks are positive. So when we're doing a full-blown risk analysis, we look for positive risks as well. And the answer is not always to mitigate a risk. Sometimes thinking about a positive risk. So the risk may be that my contractor is going to finish 6 weeks early, and that's a good thing. I mean, they're going to be done with the work early. So I might want to take some actions that would encourage that. So positive risk responses allow me to take action to encourage the likelihood or the impact of the risk. So I can exploit the risk. I'm going to put some money into helping. Maybe I'm going to give them some resources to hire some extra folks to get that work done early, because if they finish 6 weeks early, I can open early and I'm making money. Sometimes we try to share that risk. We'll see that a lot in construction contracts, the highway contracts where they're doing highway contract or construction work all over the place. Often the state and the contractor will agree to share the potential positive risk of finishing early or finishing under budget, finishing right on scope. Enhance is where I take an action that maybe it will increase the likelihood, or maybe it'll increase the impact of the positive risk occurring. Maybe I can't do anything to make certain that the risk occurs, but maybe I can do some things to increase the probability. And then sometimes you can't do anything about it. You just have to accept it. If the risk occurs, the risk occurs. In the negative risk realm, we also have a set of responses. One of the most common, I think, is when we transfer negative risks. Does anybody know what the most common way of transferring risk is in our society? We do it all the time. Insurance. Juanita gets another bonus. 2 stars for today, Juanita. So insurance, we have car insurance and house insurance and life insurance and dental insurance and vision insurance. So what we're doing is we're putting money into a pool and we're transferring the risk, the financial risk, to an insurer. So if the risk does occur, then they'll cover the cost. Another way to deal with risk is to avoid it. If there's a risk that if I take a route to work, that there's a railroad track, there's a risk that I'll be late if the train is there. So I can completely avoid that risk by taking a different route.
I can leave for work earlier so I don't have to drive faster.
So that's mitigating.
Oh, yes, there it is. I just think I would just rather avoid it.
Yeah.
If
So
I avoid the driving.
But if you leave early, I've reduced the
I actually
likelihood
go
that
to
I'll
work
be late.
late with everybody else. I go to work at 8:30.
That's another.
But I go in at 8:30 to avoid the traffic.
To avoid the
Because
traffic,
otherwise, I would
yeah.
have to leave my house at 7 to get there by 8.
Yeah.
Well, I could leave at 8 and get there at 8:30. So
Yeah, I leave at 6:15. I'm
I
there
know you did.
and
I knew
going.
you were an early
Yeah,
bird.
I'm an early bird.
Yeah, I go early and stay late.
So we talked about avoid and transfer. Mitigate is where you take action to reduce the likelihood or reduce the impact. So I'm going to leave for work early. So if the train is going on the railroad tracks, it's less likely that I'll be late because I left early. And then again, sometimes all we can do is accept the risk. And here's some more. Cyber insurance. That's another common example in our realm of transferring the risk of a cybersecurity incident. So we're insuring ourselves to hopefully avoid the potential impact of that risk. Avoiding, we don't collect SSNs. So we're avoiding the risk of inadvertently disclosing social security numbers. If you don't
Collect it.
collect it, you don't have to protect it.
That's right. That is right.
Let's see, using a SIEM tool can decrease the impact of an intrusion. And then sometimes we accept we've got legacy systems. And in some of the cases, all we can do is accept the risk. There's nothing that we can do. We have one system where literally users can't change their own passwords because the system is that old. And there's no, other than what we're doing now, which is to build a replacement for that system, there's nothing we can do about that. So all we have to do is accept that risk. For the most part, though, the impact of that is pretty small. So if this were a big, major, super thing, then obviously accepting that risk would be unacceptable. Right. But under these circumstances, we'll accept that risk.
Well, William says the risk never happens. Once it does, it's an incident. So you have an incident response plan.
Yes. There's William going for some extra points for tonight. Everybody's getting gold stars. Risk register. This is a way that folks who are responsible for risk management activities can capture and manage those risks in our work. We have and we use Jira to manage much of the work that we do. And we have a RAID board, and we look at our RAID board every day at stand up to see if there are any risks or issues or decisions that need to be cataloged and managed as part of our work.
So cold. Just putting that out there.
I went home and bought and got a jacket.
I almost brought a sweatshirt. Like I'm thirsty, but I don't want to drink my water because it's cold. That's how bad it is.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything about this slide except it's out there and you're welcome to go out and take a look at it. Again, there are some industries that are so heavily regulated that the whole risk management aspect of their work is like one of the most important aspects of their work, and they have to pay very close attention to their risk tools. So when we've identified risks that have some level of substantial likelihood and some level of substantial harm, then we need to have a risk response plan for those things. In the PIA template, this is that part where when you're looking at, so you're responsible for collecting this information. This is where you might say to folks that are completing a PIA, you need to provide us a risk response plan for any risks that you've identified in this activity. And I want it to look something like this. But this is a framework that's available to build a risk response. All right, it's 7:30. I'm going to go through this part fairly quickly. I think it's interesting and it's kind of fun. When we have a larger class, sometimes we have some engaging discussion about it, but I'm gonna zip through it again. It's out there. This is not, again, it's not going to be on the test. It's not part of the scenario. This is just trying to improve your enlightenment about the law. In the law, everybody's heard of contracts, and that's where people usually people, maybe companies, agree that they're going to do something, and often money changes hands, and often a product or a service is delivered as a result of that. Another major area of the law is called torts. So tort law, I'm going to read this slide to you. Tort law is the body of laws that enables people to seek compensation for wrongs committed against them. So it's usually about somebody did something and somebody else got hurt by that. Not necessarily physically, but maybe financially or emotionally. When someone's actions cause some type of harm to another, whether it is physical harm to another person or harm to someone's property or reputation, the harmed or injured person or entity may seek damages through the court. So this was like one of the earliest evolved areas of the court. So this is ancient stuff. I'm trying to remember like that first tort case. Do you remember, Jennifer, it's about the squib? Was that it? Does that ring any bells? But it's that's basically back in the days before we had matches. The way that we managed fire, they had I think it was about a squib, but someone like hurt somebody else, burn their house down or something.
I thought it was a fire, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that, and that may be totally wrong, but for some reason
Is it Palsgraf?
I think it was.
Miss Palsgraf was injured by a falling set of scales, the result of a box of fireworks that fell onto the railroad tracks and exploded. The box fell only after a passenger who was being shoved into a crowded train car by a guard.
That was that's a negligence. That was like our first negligence case. So torts are these laws that exist. Many of them are not like written down laws. It's called common law, the law that the courts have decided over centuries. We have intentional torts. That's where somebody does some intentional act, maybe not with the intent of causing harm, but they're being intentional about the thing that they're doing. So I'm walking down the street and I'm looking at my phone. I'm not paying attention. So I'm acting intentionally, and I run into somebody. I didn't intend to cause harm, but I did intend to walk down the street looking at my phone instead of paying attention to where I was going. Negligent torts, that's where we cause harm through a negligent act. So I'm in the whole thing, the negligence causality, and the initial cause and stuff like that. It's a whole, it's a fascinating area of the law, but that's where we look at who's going to be responsible for the negligence of someone.
If you invite somebody into your store, it's the Walmart slip and fall case.
Yeah.
That's a negligent tort.
I didn't, somebody told me there was water on the floor. I didn't clean it up.
Didn't put a sign up.
That was negligent. And then we have some torts that I don't care whether you're negligent or not, whether you're intended any harm. Nobody should be doing this ever, and you will be held liable. So if you keep a lion in your backyard and the lion kills somebody, you're going to be held accountable. So we have these things that are called strict liability torts, where nobody has to be found at fault. Just if harm occurs because somebody did something under a set of circumstances, then you're going to be held accountable. So some of the more common privacy-related torts that we see today are some of these next few slides. Public disclosure of private facts. So with a tort, what we usually say is that there are elements of the cause of action. And often all of the elements must be found to be true in order to be able to find that the other person is liable for the conduct that occurred. So for public disclosure, private facts, the elements of the tort are someone publicly discloses. So it's not written in your diary. That's not a public disclosure. A private matter. So it's not something that everybody already knows, something that's already out in the public. It has to be highly offensive, not just a little bit annoying. It has to be highly offensive to a reasonable person. We spend a whole lot of time in the tort class in law school trying to figure out what a reasonable person is. It's sort of a fictitious person. Andy Griffith is the person that comes to mind. Yeah.
Scott versus Shepard.
Scott versus Shepard. And was it a
squib case?
It was the squib.
It is a mischievous defendant. Shepard threw a lighted squib, which is a small firework, into a crowded marketplace. It landed on a merchant's stall, and to avoid injury or fire, the merchant instinctively tossed it away. Another person did the same. The squid then exploded, injuring the plaintiff Scott in the face and blinding him in one eye. So the question is whether Shepard, the original thrower, was liable for the injury, even though the harm was caused indirectly after others had intervened. Yes, he was. I'll tell you though, when you said squib, I'm rereading the Harry Potter series. There was no squib. I have Harry Potter in my purse right now, but I've been rereading it, so I'm like, there was no squib, Mr. Filch. But you get, and it was from 1773.
Okay, so that's old law. That's old law. And that was like literally the first case we read in law school. So this publicly disclosed private matter that's highly offensive to a reasonable person cannot be of legitimate public concern, and it's not newsworthy. So if somebody happened to publish a photograph of, I don't know, a president next to a person who's no longer living,
that may or may not
may have done things.
Yeah.
In this case, it probably wouldn't count, even though this person is going to threaten to sue everybody all the time. It's probably not going to fall under this particular tort because even though they publicly disclosed a private matter, it's highly offensive to most reasonable people. It is of legitimate public concern because we have a public figure, and it is freaking newsworthy because people maybe have a right to know. Some of the things that they look at in the newsworthiness issue, because this can be a delicate area.
And it's a balancing test.
Determining whether in fact this is something newsworthy or not. If it were my next door neighbor, maybe it is, maybe it's not. There was a governor in a state that was really interested in having a prison built. And
hypothetically,
he was really interested in having a prison built, and posted some Facebook stuff about people who had been convicted in our courts, and was using this as justification.
I think I might have heard
about this
hypothetical,
hypothetical
yeah.
situation. And so this, it's probably not going to meet the test. So even though this person is publicly disclosing, so, I'm putting it out there on Facebook, that's public disclosure. It probably is a public matter because our court records are public. Now, if the cases had been sealed and if a person only had access to that information because of their position, that would be a different situation. It would not be a public matter if those cases had been sealed and expunged and nobody knew about them.
And some things, just because they are bad taste, doesn't necessarily mean that it's,
Highly offensive.
it might.
It-
It depends on who your audience is.
And we get back to that reasonable
Exactly.
standard, what's reasonable under the circumstances. One might argue that a public figure posting this stuff about people who've been through the criminal justice system and completed their sentence, their punishment. Maybe that's no longer a legitimate public concern. They paid their debt to society.
Mhm.
Maybe they are no longer deserving of that public light. Maybe they're not newsworthy. So anyway, there are circumstances where we just have to be mindful of the stuff that we're putting out there. Because we may be invoking one of these torts and we may be held liable for such things. Intrusion upon seclusion is another one of those torts. In this case, where one intrudes upon the solitude or seclusion of another or the private affairs or concerns. The intrusion itself is highly offensive to a reasonable person, and there's no publication required. So I'm not putting anything out there in the public. The common cases that we're seeing in the modern world is something like email snooping. There have been like spousal snooping cases where a husband or wife is going through the email or the text messages on the phone of another person, and this would be the potential tort for intrusion upon seclusion. The question really comes to, is the intrusion highly offensive? We see a lot of stuff today. And again, so to me, the fascinating aspect of this is we have these really old torts, and technology has put a whole new spin on these old torts. And the courts are trying to figure out, well, how do we apply these old laws to these new situations that we've never had to think about before? So that's the universe that we're in today, is the courts. Many of our judges who really don't understand or care much about technology are trying to apply the law in it's like a whole new universe to them. So that's why I wanted to take the time out of the class to do this. False light is another one of those torts. So in this case, if you publicly disclose a matter, so it's not, again, if I write it in my diary or I write it in my OneNote that nobody else has access to, I'm not publicly disclosing it. That places a person in false light. So memes are like always doing, they're putting people's faces like dancing around with Mexican hats and stuff. I mean, people are doing this stuff all the time with the technologies that we have, and the technologies are just making it easier and easier to publish someone in false light. The whole notion that we can fabricate real looking things with technology, we call them deep fakes, that it's many people are unable to distinguish the fake from reality. So this is again, this is one of those areas I think we're likely to see more movement as it becomes more common to use these technologies that we have. So anyway, you're publicly disclosing a matter that places a person in false light. It's highly offensive to a reasonable person. So we're back to that reasonable person standard. It's highly offensive to the most sensitive person we know, or highly offensive to the most callous person we know. It's highly offensive to a reasonable person. And it's concerned about injury to the person's feelings, not so much their reputation. So this doesn't have to be a public figure. It could impact pretty much anybody. And it's really about causing the emotional harm to casting someone in a false light. We see a lot of digital appropriation today. So this is the appropriation of a name or a likeness. And again, so with our tools today, it is so easy compared to back in the day. One who appropriates to his own use or benefit the name or likeness of another. And it's important to note that famous people may have an exclusive right to exploit the value of their identity. And apparently this applies to college football players now too. So they have the right to determine how their identity is going to be used in the marketplace. Not going to go into details about Communications Decency Act. One of the important aspects, though, is that this law provided a safe harbor for our internet service providers. And it essentially, and again, this was at the dawn of the internet. The policy behind it was we want to see what's going to happen with this internet thing. So we're going to protect those companies who are providing access to the internet to other people, and we're not going to hold them liable for the stuff that's coming through. So this was an important policy decision that probably had a major impact on the explosive growth of the internet by protecting the internet service providers from any potential harm. So with bulletin board services or websites, if stuff were published violating copyright law or trademark or whatever, the internet service providers were protected so that they were encouraged to keep making internet access available. In 2017, there was a major amendment to the Communications Decency Act dealing with the issue of sex trafficking, and it took away an area of immunity. And what we saw as a result of that was a lot of public forums essentially went away because they had no way to manage and monitor the information that people from all over the world were putting into these systems and services. They had no way to make sure that these illegal acts were not occurring using their tools. So it was easier just to shut down the shop, to close the doors. And here we are 9 years later. there's still some talk. I mean, there was quite a bit last year during the federal election campaign about removing the immunity for internet service providers. So there, the Facebooks and the Twitters or X, Truth Social, there's a potential that should Congress decide to remove that protection, that these companies may shut down if they can't ensure that the people who are contributing to the social commentary are following the law.
ISPs seem different though than, platforms. I mean,
It does, but back then it immunized ISPs, blogs, social network sites.
right, so
And
but
others.
if they do go back and they touch, they change some of
Yeah.
this.
I mean,
They touch ISPs, you shut the internet.
yeah, originally AOL and CompuServe served both purposes. I mean, they allowed you access to the internet and they provided these services to you to be able to interact with other folks. Now, our electric company provides our internet access. So it's not so much an issue for them. And it might be even more burdensome for them to monitor the traffic at the level that they would have to be able
They
to
would
ensure
just stop
compliance.
doing it.
Yeah.
Which completely gets like a lot of all the broadband
Everything,
issues and stuff
yeah.
like that, so it's a.
So anyway, this is kind of a current awareness thing, something to think about. Anti-SLAPP acts. So this is, in a lot of states have adopted these. It's the intent is to reduce the likelihood that somebody is using a lawsuit to silence the speech of somebody that they don't like. So this provides, there's a set of elements, and there's like an initial analysis, but it's trying to keep people from using the law to keep people quiet. Real briefly, anonymous speech, which is way more hard, I think, in the modern world than it was back when you could, post a flyer on a fence post. The First Amendment, the United States Constitution, First Amendment protects anonymous speech. So Congress or the states cannot prohibit anonymous speech unless the law is narrowly tailored to a compelling governmental interest. And that's like the highest level of scrutiny. So it's not impossible, but almost impossible for a law to pass that level of scrutiny. Here's some examples. A regulation can't require people to include their true identities on handbills and pamphlets. So I can anonymously post political speech out there without being fear of being required to be identified. The law cannot require individuals handing out petitions to wear name tags.
But they can require them to do all kinds of other stuff.
Or can they?
Did we just change?
Yeah, I was somewhere Friday night and they had somebody with petitions and they were like, now see your driver's license. They verified my photo, all that. Here is the bill title. We have to read this.
Mhm.
I also have to tell you that signing the petition, if you're unable to, is like a misdemeanor or whatever it is, in accordance with whatever law. And they gave me the bill title on a laminated sheet, and they said, read it and let me know when you're done. I was like, brother, I knew what the bill was, but, yeah, it was,
Lots of hurdles.
but no name tag,
No name tag on the petitioner, yeah.
yes.
You cannot force solicitors of private residences to obtain a permit requiring they supply their identities. So, people coming around and knocking on your door, the city can't pass a law requiring that they supply their identities. So anonymous speech, still exists in the United States. So let's get into some incident response planning. I think we're good on time so far. We already talked about, I'm gonna zip through these slides pretty quickly. This is from the cost of a data breach. Published, it's a report published by IBM every year. These are from the 2025 report. When we have a data breach, and we talked about this the very first night. If we have problems, here are some of the things that we should be concerned about. News reports are bad publicity. After the Target incident, Target sales plummeted for a while because of the Target incident. It can result in a bad reputation. If you don't care about the data that you're responsible for and you get a bad reputation, people are not going to give you that information. Sometimes it can result in regulatory findings or fines, especially in those heavily regulated industries, the healthcare industry, the financial industries. It can be very painful financially to mess up. And then there's the potential loss of future revenue. People are not going to want to do business with you if you're not going to take care of their data. I want to share this to me, Jennifer, I thought was really interesting. So over the last decade, the cost of data breaches had been going up and up and up and up. And just this past year is the first time in a long time that the cost actually went down from year to year, from 4.88 million to 4.44. Haven't really given much thought into why would the cost go down. But there's a lot of AI analysis in the 2025 report, and I think that may give us some insight
Probably.
into what's going on. It was interesting. 1 in 6 breaches involve AI-driven attacks. So the bad guys are using AI. They're using it to generate phishing campaigns or spear phishing campaigns. They're using it to probe networks to be able to find the vulnerability. So we're seeing already an impact in the cybersecurity realm. What's happening because of AI. This is the areas of industry that are most likely to be impacted: media, hospitality, transportation, education, research, communications. So this is where folks are going to get the data. This was also interesting. So, and I think there may be an AI impact that we're beginning to see here. So the time in days to identify a breach is now trending down. So I think part of it is we have all of these monitoring tools in place, and some of them are using some of the AI capabilities.
Yeah, better
looking,
tools.
pattern recognition, the behavior pattern analysis. So we have these tools that we've brought to bear. So I think it allows us to identify a potential breach much more quickly. This slide is crappy because you don't see the chart. And I've got on the very first thing, I've got the link to the actual full report so you can get it. But this has to do with I think the nature of the efforts gone into resolving the incidents. These are some of the sources, so the most common sources. Third-party vendor and supply chain compromise. We've been hit. It's again not like a cyber attack, but we've had incidents related to supply chain things recently. So that's where somebody's they're finding ways to deliver malicious packages in what one would expect to be a legitimate source or a legitimate download. And we had, I was trying to think of the most recent one that we had to deal with, but it was a supply chain compromise. It was, there's a library suite of developer tools that's commonly used in the development and software development industry, and someone managed to insert into those tools a malicious code to deliver packages.
Like NPM.
Yeah.
And like just infecting the package.
Yeah.
Just getting
Yeah.
distributed back into these systems.
Yeah.
Dependencies.
So that's the supply chain compromise. The malicious insider phishing campaigns are still common. Compromised credentials, vulnerability, exploitation. I think we're getting more sensitive about patching our systems and keeping our systems current, because if we don't, we know that that's a vulnerability that we can be held responsible for. So these are some of the common things that we see. So let's talk about getting ready to build your incident response plan. Until an appropriate determination has been made, you should use the term event or security incident or potential security incident until someone at the appropriate level has said, we have a breach, we have a data breach, or we have a cybersecurity breach. It should be somebody with authority who makes a determination, not just anybody. We need to be prepared. So I don't know. I've resigned to the fact that an incident is inevitable. It's just a question of how big, how bad that incident is going to be. But an incident is inevitable. After taking appropriate preventative measures, we need to be prepared to respond when a breach occurs. One of the things we do is incident response training. We do cybersecurity training pretty regularly now. We have to do it every year to be faculty members, to teach. So I think we're getting accustomed, and that's been one of the hardest things, Jennifer, is getting our lawyers in our organization to complete their required cybersecurity training.
I have an outstanding one right now.
I've got some ULR stuff I've got to do.
I think I did all mine. It only takes 22 hours.
Or 70, I'm not sure.
All I know is I just want to let everybody know that your tuition might be cheaper if they would turn the air conditioner off right now. Just
Yeah.
saying. That's why if you're.
Yeah, and that's like a hotel room kind of.
Oh, yeah, no, it's
It's
purely
fake.
there. It's
Yeah.
purely
It's
for.
Just for
Yeah.
your,
Yeah, no, that does nothing. I remember that last year, but it just makes me feel better.
Imagine
I have to remember to
that
bring my
it's 75
sweatshirt.
degrees.
Yeah, I have to remember to bring my sweatshirt.
Remember the kid from The Matrix? There is no spoon. So
Yeah, no, that's just pretend.
Yeah.
thermostat.
Incident response training is essential. One of the things that I'd mentioned earlier is that we've been doing tabletop exercises with court systems around the country. So we're doing our part to better prepare. Doing those training exercises. Even if you have an incident plan in place, if you don't test it, if you don't practice it, nobody's going to be ready. The incident occurs, it's like, oh, what do we do? Let's find our response plan. So if you have that intent to ensure that everybody gets adequate training, you need people to respond instinctively to these things, because when they are big and when they're bad, people are going to be panicking, and you need your folks to be prepared. Think about who should be trained and how to tailor that training appropriately depending on their responsibilities. Everybody should get some sort of training, but the people who are going to be actively engaged in responding, the IT folks, the security folks, they need more detailed training, more in-depth training, and more frequent exercises. For the rest of the folks, I mostly need them to be aware and to be able to report if they become aware of an incident. That's the biggest concern. We've done really good, I think, in folks reporting phishing incidents or attempted phishing incidents. We've had, I remember, it's like in last year, because we try to do some of this stuff around Cybersecurity Month, but last year we were well ahead of the national metrics in our recognition and response in phishing incidents. So I think we're generally doing a better job on that side. We need to think about how we're doing the training. Sometimes we need classroom training. Most of us are doing these annual automated online stuff. I don't get a lot of value out of it. For some of our folks, it's like, if you just get enough to think before you click, think before you hit that link, think before you link.
Yeah, do you guys do some internal, like, with you fish your own reports?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Basis, so.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
But we also do some of these other things. So we sometimes do classroom training. Again, for cybersecurity stuff, October is the great month to do that. So we'll have a couple of sessions to try to get folks in the classroom and thinking about what they're doing. Cybersecurity Month. January is Data Privacy Protection Month, so that's another opportunity to raise awareness and have awareness related activities. We're doing, I think I mentioned, we're doing a chili cook-off at the end of October, and we're doing some cybersecurity stuff along with it. I think we're doing like a crossword puzzle. We're going to be doing like a quizzy game show thing with some prizes or something like that. So anyway.
With fabulous prizes.
Yeah. Online training and videos, especially if you have remote staff. Hate them, but it's better than nothing. So we're using KnowBe4 right now, and we've been using the Inside Man is a video series. It's like brilliantly made, professional quality,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a soap opera.
Yep.
And it's really sucked our folks into it, and they're thinking, as they're going through their daily work, I think it's like, oh, well, this is kind of like that episode of The Inside Man where we found out that Mark is actually a hacker and his sister was involved. So anyway, folks, folks are engaged with it because of the professional quality of it. And it's not someone sitting here lecturing about what you must do in the event of a cybersecurity attack. It's a soap opera.
Right.
And folks are finding it really relatable. Training exercises or drills. We do desktop exercises, tabletop exercises. We're not actually, we're simulating responses. Although we've, with our disaster recovery plan, we have done some live simulations where the Chief Justice declares a disaster. We evacuate the Justice Building, go to alternate side or whatever. So anyway, those are real things that can help us be prepared. One of the interesting things, when we were preparing our disaster recovery plan and we had our alternate site all picked out, nobody thought about parking. I mean, we had a great building and room for the employees who were housed there, but there was no extra parking.
They just made the decision to lock my building down. Now, there's 2 public entrances that you do not have to have a badge on. Both of them converge to where we have somebody at the front desk. The other 2 entrances have to be badge access. Now, they've made the decision to lock and have to have a badge at all the entrances. So not even like you can make it into the lobby. You have to have a badge at all the entrances. I'm waiting for there to be like a high profile meeting with a lot of, important people. And while we have coverage for the front desk staff to go to lunch, what happens if she's in the bathroom? And everybody has to stand outside and hit the button. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody thought this out.
Yeah.
And what public building isn't open, at least in the lobby?
Yeah. Office of Professional Programs is still over there too.
Yes, it is.
They haven't moved out yet.
Are they moving over to your area?
I have the right to remain silent.
It's convenient for me because they're literally, I'm on the
Yeah.
same floor. I can just go
And
drop
you're-
my forms off.
And you're always turning in CLE.
Always.
Always. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It's important to record the results of training for lessons learned. So let's evaluate, analyze the stuff that we're doing to make sure it's worthwhile. And we're doing that. We've been doing it with the Know Before program. So, we pay the annual subscription fee, and then we've been able to track over the course of time the impact of doing this. And so far, it has been worth the cost to spend the money on the program. In order to build an incident response plan, this isn't something that one should do alone. A chief privacy officer is probably going to want to use some AI and some other team members to help build an incident response plan. Think about the other folks who might be involved or engaged. For our incident response planning, whether data or cyber or disaster, we have to think about the potential law enforcement agency engagement. So we have the FBI cybercrime folks on speed dial in our SOC, because if something happens, that's one of the first things that we need to let them know what happened. Think about your customers, your constituents. Somebody's going to, whether you're a private entity or public entity, someone's going to have to interface, if it becomes known, with the media. So there needs to be someone that's capable of doing that thing. We've had some major cybersecurity incidents in courts around the country, and some of them have done absolutely fantastic jobs of controlling and managing the message, but it's because of the preparation that they did on the front side. Ideally, the CPO should lead the privacy team as you're building your data incident response plan. Again, we've got an example of an incident response framework. We need to identify and detect, contain and eradicate, and recover and follow up. This isn't an entire plan. This is a framework. It's a concept of a plan. So it's a good starting point to help guide the development of the plan that you're going to be required to create. It's helpful, especially in the data privacy realm, to engage the legal folks, because they're often going to be making that determination. Is a notification required? What other activities must we take? It's also important that sometimes you should engage legal counsel for the purpose of protecting the confidential nature of the conversations that are going to be required in order to resolve the incident. So even with our cybersecurity insurance, the first phone call that's made is actually to an attorney, and it starts the engagement, and it builds this cloak of attorney-client privilege. So then even though we're a public entity, we can speak freely without fear of public disclosure of anything to the attorney that's representing us while we're working on the incident. So give some thought as you're building your incident response plan to whether Quantum Leap, maybe they have in-house counsel, maybe they have hired a law firm. I mean, they're just across the river from Memphis, and I've read a lot of books about attorneys in Memphis that are amazing. It's all fiction, but there are still some pretty good reads. Think about human resources. For many of us, some of our most confidential information resides in our human resources department. They're collecting information about our medical care, and they're collecting information to ensure that we have the right to work in the United States, and they're collecting information about our identities. So they are storehouses of some of the most private information that we may be responsible for. So we need to be sure, as we're planning for it, to engage the HR folks, make sure that they are properly trained in handling PII and confidential information. And if they happen to be the source of your data breach, they need to be prepared to respond to that. I think more so in the private sector, but even in the public sector, we've got to have that PR aspect. Someone is going to be responsible for being the spokesperson of the organization while you're resolving an incident. And it may be that they're just drafting press releases, or they may be on camera in front of the TV in front of a courthouse or something. But that needs to be part of the team that's building the response. We need to think about how are we going to be communicating with our customers? How are we going to be communicating with the public? How are we going to be communicating with the press as we're working to resolve an incident? The worst thing that can happen is that the rumor mill goes nuts, and then your company is devastated. I mean, with the speed of information today, your company can be devastated in a matter of hours if you don't do a good job at managing the message. I think it's important to consider that although we are asking you for a data breach incident response plan, which is, we're asking for a very specific thing. We're not asking for a cybersecurity response plan. We're not asking for a disaster recovery plan or a continuity of operations plan or a business continuity plan. We're asking for a very specific thing, but in the big picture, this would be part of the organization's overall planning for all of these things. I should plan for a data breach when I'm planning for disaster recovery, when I'm planning for continuity of operations and business continuity, and planning for a cybersecurity incident. But the focus on the next assignment is really about the data breach incident and responding to that. So that's where Chief Privacy Officer's here. That's our job. That's our focus. We're not asking you, we don't want you to turn in a cybersecurity incident response plan. That's not what the assignment is about. But at least 3 people will turn in a cybersecurity incident response plan. And we'll have to say, well, no, that is not what we asked for. And no, that is not even the name of the company.
That's true.
Every time it's going to happen. But don't let it be you. Don't let it be you guys out there. We want a data breach incident response plan with a focus on the data aspects of our responsibilities as Chief Privacy Officers. Last week, I provided this super cool tool that can help you. I certainly don't want to see 25 copies of this thing verbatim. That will not get you a good grade. But 25 copies of this thing tailored to the incident that we're looking at, or to the organization that we're responsible for, that would be super amazing. And I would love that. Because as you're going through that tailoring process, you're going to come with different perspectives and different experiences. So there should not be 25 of the same thing. An incident response plan has to have some sort of reporting tool. I have to have a way for people to let me know that they think something has happened. And they have to know, they have to be trained, they have to be aware of how to report the thing. And this is something that I would expect to see in everybody's assignment, not this page, because that's not helpful. You have to tailor it to the circumstances. Just like we have for the other assignments, here's resources. There's resources out there. The problem, again, is not going to be, I can't find information. You're going to find it out there. The challenge is going to be synthesizing and tailoring it to the circumstances. Think about what's really relevant under the circumstances. What are the likely things that are susceptible to an incident? And I think we've shared a lot of information in the scenario that should help you be able to make that quantum leap. This is, I think I pulled this from privacy program management. So this is pulled from the privacy program management text. But these are some good tips to help manage the communications with the executives and during the remediation process. We're going to wrap up right on time. We're good. We might even finish a little bit early. So now we're gonna talk about the incident response planning process as part of your overall privacy program management. So as the Chief Privacy Officer, hopefully most of you in your first assignment said, one of my goals is going to be establishing a privacy program for the organization so that we'll be able to do all of these things and have all of these tools to help manage the information that we're responsible for. So how do we manage and monitor our program? So now we've done our planning, we've got our PIA template, we've got our policy, we've got our one-year plan for the things that we're going to do, and we need to think about how are we going to look at this program that we've created and make sure it's successful. So here's some ways that we can manage and monitor the program. An audit is an excellent tool to have someone come in from the outside and do an assessment. It's probably too easy to trick ourselves or lull ourselves into a false sense of confidence that, we've done everything we need to do. We got this. But if you have somebody come in from the outside, someone who's a professional in managing privacy programs to come in and audit, they'll be happy to tell you for a certain amount of money
All the things
you did wrong.
And you're like, dang, I thought I was doing good.
Yeah. It's like, I was going to get a raise, but maybe not now. So an audit is a formal external review. Somebody's coming in from the outside. They look at the planning process. They look at your risk management activities. How are you testing and controlling your privacy management and privacy practice? And it will result in a formal finding with recommendations or corrective actions. So on the cybersecurity side of this, what we do is we engage companies to come in and do penetration testing. And it's essentially the same thing. So I have an external entity, a third party, I'm paying them to come in and do a job. And they're gonna test our servers, and they're going to do social engineering, they're going to test our policies, and then they're going to come back with a report and say, here's some things that you're doing really well, and here are some things that need some remediation. We're actually engaged right now in remediation activities from our last pen test. We did a secondary test, so they came through. We did major remediation on the most important stuff, and they came back and said, you guys got one of the best scores of any public entity that we've ever engaged with. So it was, but they uncovered some important things.
Sure.
that we had to resolve, and we had to put those resources on to make sure it was resolved. So auditing is another example on the privacy side to have your privacy
And
program.
it may be required for some regulatory entities depending upon the nature of the data. I think
Yeah,
IRS.
again, yeah, the financial stuff, the health stuff, they may require
Yes,
that your
I think
privacy
IRS
program be-
requires it.
Monitoring. So this is where we're looking internally at how we're doing the job that we're responsible for doing. So I might have a program that's looking at set measures to see how we're performing. On the cybersecurity side, the looking at how our people are scoring on their annual cybersecurity training is one of those ways that we monitor on that side. So we can do similar things on the privacy side. It's less formal than an audit. So it's, it's something we're doing internally. I'm not paying somebody from the outside to come in and do it. It's usually performed by staff. Sometimes we start a monitoring program because that's a result of the audit. It's like, you guys need to pay attention internally to what's going on. We need to look for those metrics that we need to measure. If I'm trying to there's surely some amazing rhymey thing out there that Jennifer has in her head. If we don't count it, we can't, I don't know. I got nothing. But we need to think about the things that we're going to measure, something that's meaningful, and make sure it's scalable, sustainable, and directed to the intended audience. So I'm building into my privacy program management a set of metrics to monitor. One of the things that we look at on the cybersecurity campaign side is the number of clicks on our phishing campaigns. And that's a thing that we can monitor over time. Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Are there things that we need to do? Is there more awareness that we need to take into account? So if we identify those measures on our privacy program and then determine a way to monitor those measures, how many, maybe we need to have somebody go through a trash bin occasionally and see how much PII is in the trash can. I mean, that would be it's a simple thing. It's a simple measure. It's meaningful. It's scalable. It could be sustainable. And it's pretty simple. And it has nothing to do with technology, especially if you do it in the HR department. I mean, go in and go through somebody's trash and see, I mean, are they complying with the regulation? Are they shredding the documents that contain PII, or are they redacting those things before they dump them into the trash? So again, a totally non-technology related monitoring tool that could be used to help measure the effectiveness of your privacy program. Routinely analyze collected data. So we need to look at trends over time. I had mentioned we pay an annual subscription to KnowBe4, pay for the annual subscription fee. And before we pay that renewal, we look at the return on investment. Are we getting our money's worth? And looking at the precipitation of our employees, the participation by our employees in going through the annual training, looking at the effectiveness of the reporting. We have built into it just a fish reporting tool, so that if I get something that I suspect is a suspicious email, I hit a button and it's reported automatically. So that's something that we can measure and monitor over time. If we are having fewer incidents, then maybe the return on investment is sufficient to justify continuing the program. The example you have on your screen is a privacy maturity model. There are all kinds. There are IT maturity models, there are capability maturity models, and it's a way of looking internally into your organization to see areas for opportunities for growth. And this is one of those examples where you can bring something like this into your organization and look at the areas where we need to focus and how we need to improve the organization as a whole. And then it's important to think about why we're doing this monitoring. Monitoring should ensure that the organization is doing what it should be doing. Monitoring should be continuous. You can't do it like once a year or once every 5 years. The whole point of monitoring is to have this continuous flow of data to be able to analyze, to measure our success. It should be executed through defined roles and responsibilities. We're not going to have the janitorial staff doing the monitoring of our privacy program. It's important to detect privacy failures early, either in the program or the incidents, and look for opportunities for improvement. and again, this is another dead horse that we've beaten so many times. The data domain that you're responsible for is going to dramatically impact the type of monitoring that you're going to be responsible for and the level of monitoring that is going to be required. In the financial industry, you won't just have a legal department, you'll have a regulatory compliance department who all their focus is about, are we complying with GLB or whatever? Are we complying with those regulations and identifying areas of the program that may be impacted by that? The same with the big healthcare companies, CHI St. Vincent. They have the whole compliance department to ensure that they're complying with these regulations. It's helpful to look at the environment. The vulnerabilities are not just technological things, and we've hit on this multiple times. We have to look at the environment as a whole. We have to look at the physical security. We have to look at awareness and training. If these things didn't work, we wouldn't be doing them. And again, what I'm seeing over and over again is by raising awareness, by conducting training, we're doing a better job at protecting your information that we're responsible for protecting. I think on the tools that are available for monitoring privacy programs, cybersecurity programs, AI is getting big, and it's only gonna get bigger. It's like everybody and their brother has an AI tool for something now. So this is probably one of the most impactful areas. But some of the other things that we've talked about, audit, having somebody come in to check us out. When we do have incidents or breaches, measuring the type, the severity, the time to remediation. Many of those things that IBM reports on is data that's required to be reported by some of those regulatory industries, and that's why we have the data to be able to look at it. Anyway.
Is your office set up?
Almost. I have like 1/10 of the monitors. Even our SOC isn't that nice, but that's I don't have enough eyes to look at all that stuff. I would need like a robot to be able to do that. We're almost there, y'all. Good. This is an example of generally accepted privacy principles. This might be a helpful start as you're thinking about building your privacy program. I'm not going to read the stuff. And again, there's some clickable links in here to go and explore. One of the things that I would expect to see in an incident response plan is, what do we do after the incident has been resolved? There needs to be some sort of post-mortem process baked in to your incident response plan so that you can learn from the incident that occurred. And how you do that is going to be up to you. There needs to be something where you're looking at the incident as a whole and how you responded and opportunities for improvement. Here are some times where you may want to conduct some sort of lessons learned after an incident, after a tabletop exercise. We did our tabletop exercise when we were doing with other jurisdictions, and we had a follow-up and had to make some changes. After a drill, I mentioned that we had an actual live drill, and we had no parking spaces, so we had to adjust our plan. And we had to do a postmortem on that exercise and then made recommendations to the Chief Justice to make some changes. And then the other thing, if you have a plan, you must have a plan. One, you must have a plan. And two, if you have a plan, you must review the plan and update it periodically, whether it's quarterly or annually.
And
Again,
then follow it.
regulatory frameworks are going to impact that frequency, but you must review, you must have a plan. And if you have a plan, you must review and update the plan. So I would expect my plan to include a plan to update my plan.
Mhm.
That's the plan. And that's all I got.
8:31, you gave 9 minutes.
At 9 minutes back to your lives. Happy
Just
Wednesday.
know I'm bringing my heated electric blanket next time. 'Cause it is
Always,
that cold in
always.
here. We have reached
I'm-
that season.
I feel pretty good. Thank you guys. Jennifer, do you want to send us out tonight again with our,
I just
with our
want to say,
reminder?
like I say, a lot of y'all did great. There were a few concerning grades, but don't panic. We're in the grind of the semester. It is coming into October. The holidays are starting to
Sneak.
approach quickly,
Sneak up.
and lives are busy. It's the grind of the semester. The newness has worn off. Next week, you already have this time blocked off on your calendars for when you would normally be in class. So we encourage you to use that time to do something that makes you feel human. Like I
And
said,
it's after you've turned in your assignment.
yeah,
So
turn in
you're
your assignment.
turning in your assignment and disconnect.
Like I say, have dinner with your family, read your children a bedtime story, exercise, catch up on crappy TV that you like to watch, your guilty pleasures.
Catch up on your cybersecurity training.
No.
No, don't do that.
No, do something that makes you feel human, Tim, human. Just read a book for fun, and take care of yourself. It will hopefully, the week off and doing something for yourself will give you that mid-semester, rejuvenation for you to get through the rest of it, because we know it's hard. So take care of yourselves, take care of others. If you need anything, Tim and I are here. I know you're going to be teaching, traveling next
Yeah,
week.
so I fly out on Tuesday and fly back on Saturday. If you guys have some stuff, send it to both of, always send it to
always
both
send
of
it to
us.
both of us, because you never know who can respond.
Yeah.
I fly out Sunday and back Thursday, so we'll be like ships in the night.
Yeah.
But email us both. We'll look over your assignments. We'll give some feedback where we can, and like I say, turn in your assignment.
And has anybody submitted?
One,
Has one? So we've had one.
yeah, and
submission.
I need to respond.
Okay.
So, but take care of yourselves, take care of others. Again, you're almost halfway there. By the time next week comes and you do something fun, if you want to post in the discussion, it's not going to be graded. You can. We just like to know what everybody does and everybody, how they take care of themselves. And it's usually my favorite. It's like if you post a dog picture, it's my
Yeah.
favorite. It's that
So
kind of thing.
I'll be in Las Vegas.
Why do you always get to go to Las Vegas? And I never do on the
I'm
company.
sorry.
That's probably
So
why they don't send me.
Wednesday night, yeah, so they send me because they know Tim isn't going to be in the newspapers in Las Vegas.
I wouldn't be in the news. What happens in Vegas, Tim? What happens in Vegas?
Yeah,
I can gamble all night and still make a conference today, do you?
okay,
I think I can. It's been a while.
yeah, I would mute.
I'm going to Denver.
For me, the hardest thing is staying awake till like 9 or 10 o'clock Pacific time. It's like, oh my God, how am I going to stay awake?
I'm going to Denver, so.
Okay.
But okay, so everybody, hope you have a good night. If you have any questions, we're here for you.
And I'll drop a quarter in a slot or something Wednesday night during class.
Is that still a thing?
The drop a quarter.
Drop a quarter in this, is that?
Put a $1 bill in.
Oh.
I mean, you could go down to Fremont and they still have some quarters,
Okay.
but it's a unique novelty set.
Okay. So I'll drop a virtual quarter in a slot for the class.
That's right, put a dollar in.
See what happens.
All right.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you again for fun class. See you guys in a couple of weeks. Good nights, ladies and gentlemen.
It is so miserably cold in here.
Yeah.